Hi, Matt with etrailer. If you have a 2020 Ford Expedition and you're just kind of getting into biking for the first time, but you want to take out your family with you, then the Hollywood Rack's Destination Bike Rack for Ford bikes is going to be a great option for you. So let's check it out. And it's going to be a pretty solid choice for the Expedition because of a few reasons. One, we have plenty of clearance in between our vehicle and the bike. We're not going to make contact with anything, even if you're on those really bumpy roads. But the reason why this is great for your family is because these type of cradles we have here, or these clamps, they actually rotate a lot of different ways and they get really low too. So they are going to work great if you have a lot of kid bikes. So if you want to take the whole family, you can. And it's relatively easy to work with. There's nothing going to be too complicated about it. It's just going to be a bunch of straps that hold your bike in place. Now the one downside is it doesn't come with any type of tilting feature, so the only way to get into your hatch area is by taking off your bikes. So let's do that now. The way I'm going to do that is just be starting with the straps on either tire. You're going to have one over here. You're just going to press on that gray tab and press up. With this removed, I can tuck this behind. I'm going to repeat that on the front side too. Just push it here and away. The last one is going to be making frame contact. So this isn't going to be as ideal if you have any nicer bikes that are more frame sensitive, if you have anything with a really nice paint job, if you have any carbon frame bikes. As you can see, it can be a little bit tricky to remove sometimes, but something I do like is the amount of space I am able to get in over here. I can actually stand in between my bike and my vehicle, so if you are struggling, you can kind of do that too. From here, we're just going to lift up, and with it off, we can take it out for a ride. And with your bikes off, you can put everything back down. The way we're going to do that is by coming over here to that front wing nut. You loosen that up, and then you can remove this bar. Just like that. And we can lower this into place. I also recommend just using one of these straps to grab on to one of the other points, like onto one of these cradles, to help keep it in place. Because there's nothing holding this down when you're driving around. Something else to keep in mind is the bikes you're putting on here. This is going to have a max weight capacity of 35 pounds per bike. So if you have anything like those heavy e-bikes, probably not going to be the best fit for them. But now we can actually open up our hatch, and as you can see, we have full clearance there. And this will be great if you want to get ready for your ride. So if you want to just take a seat, tie your shoes, you'll be able to. Or if you want to grab your helmet or your shoes, you can do that now and then head out and start riding. But let's get a few measurements just to see what this is going to be like sitting back here. The first one I like to get is going to be our ground clearance, and that's going to be sitting at about 27 inches, which is quite a bit. You really shouldn't be making any ground contact with this. The biggest thing to think about is when you're lifting your bikes on here, but as long as you're staying within 35 pounds, that shouldn't be too bad. And the next one I want to measure is going to be the total distance that this is sitting. And this is going to be just about a little bit under 42 inches, which is actually pretty good for a 4-bike carrier. This is actually going to be more condensed. I will say you will notice how limited space is on here when you're loading up your bikes. They might be a little bit closer to one another, which might make them a little bit more difficult to load, but you're also saving space when you're driving around. And finally, you can actually save even more space by folding this up if there's no bikes currently on here. The way we're going to do that is we're going to come over here to this knob, and it's just going to be threaded in. I'm going to unthread that, and then I can remove it. I also got to make sure I remove this safety clip too. And with this removed, I'll be able to put it in the folded up position. And there's really nothing much to there. There's no gears, anything. You're just really pushing it in place and lining up that hole again. With that lined up, I'll just loosely thread it on and install that pin later. But first I want to get that measurement. And now this is only going to be sitting a little bit under 15 inches. So that's going to save you a ton of space. And if you do have it in this position, it is going to block a few things. So if you really focus on the center, you notice we do have that backup camera. A lot of that is going to be blocked. I'd recommend just mainly using your back window or your mirrors to back up. And then our license plate is mostly going to be obstructed too. There'll be some visible points like through these gaps here. But really that's going to be the only thing that is blocked because our taillights and back window won't be obstructed. And the way this is going to install, we're going to have this 2-inch shank that goes into your 2-inch hitch receiver. We'll then have an anti-rattle bolt that goes through and connects to a lock core. That lock core is just going to give you extra security so no one can come by and take your rack. And the anti-rattle bolt is just going to be giving you a better fit. So when you're driving down the road, this is going to be rattling around in your receiver. In my opinion, I think this is probably one of the staple bike racks for anyone who has a family, who just wants to go out riding casually. Now, if you're someone that's more experienced and maybe you're going out to ride with your friends, then I'd probably recommend something more premium like a allot bike rack. But if you are still a family person, you want to take your family out with you, there's a couple other great options too. Two that come to mind are going to be both Benton bike racks. One's going to be the Benton Shift Show. That one's going to be a little bit different because it's going to be a hanging style bike rack. Your bikes are just going to get a little bit more movement. That's just something really common with hanging style bike racks. But what I like about them is they can carry just as many or sometimes even more bikes than something like this. And they become even more compact when you're not using them. So when you need to store it in your garage, it's going to be really easy to place. Now, if you do like the platform rack, but you still want something easy to store, then I'll also recommend the Benton Shifts and Grins. Because you can also get that in a 4-bike capacity, and you have the ability to fold up the shank, so it's going to take up a lot less space than something like this. But I think this one does a really good job at having those clamps that swivel or pivot around to accommodate a lot of different frames of bikes. But either way you go, I think they're both going to be great options for you if you're starting out with your journey with bike riding. But this was just a look at some of the features of the Hollywood Racks Destination Bike Rack for Ford bikes on the back of our 2024 Ford Expedition. We'd love to know how this is working for you and your family. Just let us know in the comments below. But I'm Matt. Thanks for watching.